I'm Elizabeth Keck.
I'm Nick Watson.
My name's Eric Hampton, and you're watching Eclectic Arts.
And you're watching Eclectic Arts.
You're watching Eclectic Arts.
Thank you for doing the interview today, and I really appreciate it. So, tell me a little bit about Baskerville and your involvement in it. How did you get involved, and how's the show been so far?
Okay, this is a really fun project. I call it a musical without music because it's that level of zany intensity, I think, a really technicolor world. So this is a show where we've got 5 actors playing well over 30 characters. A lot of kind of madcap farcical comedy, but it draws from that classic Sherlock Holmes story that we all know and love. I got involved, I actually went to grad school in Virginia, and Karen, who is the artistic director here, was brought out to my graduate school's, what is it called? Our showcase. So Karen knew me through that. And she just extended I moved to Portland last year.
Okay.
So she extended the invitation for me to come audition for this. And she knew that I reached out to her and told her, I'm on this coast. I'd love to work with you guys. Just keep me in your back pocket. So because she had seen my work before, she invited me to come audition.
Okay, so is this your first show then in the Northwest?
I actually did one small show in Portland.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so that is still your home base is Portland?
No, I moved to Seattle. I had been wanting to move to Seattle, so that getting this show was kind of the impetus that made me say, yeah, why not? It's time to make the jump.
Okay, awesome. So when you're preparing for a show like this, where you're playing so many different characters and dialects and everything else, what's part of that process? Can you walk us through it?
Sure. I start out with a notebook, and then I go through every single character. This show, we had a lot of help because there were so many dialects. So our coach emailed us a packet that had the sound changes, which character is which dialect. So I just went through and made like a little profile for each of the characters. And then from there, once you have that kind of like background, like, oh, I'm Mrs. Hudson, I'm Scottish, and I'm 80 years old, then you can start playing with physicality, like what I just did. So that's my process in a nutshell.
Okay, that's awesome. I think one thing I kind of skipped ahead was like, can you kind of speak about your background? Like, what drew you to the arts and drew you to theater, things of that nature?
Oh man, I've just always loved theater. It's just what I've always cared about the most, and I went to school for something else originally, and I just had this kind of like breakdown one day. Like I just kind of got this vision of the future I was planning for myself, and I didn't like it. And my best friend at the time said, you never shut up about theater. Maybe you should try pursuing that. And I thought, is that even allowed? Can you do that professionally? And yeah, as soon as I thought that, it's like all the right people came into my life to say, hey, you can do this if you want to.
That's awesome. So it's kind of like the universe is kind of telling you it's kind of meant to be.
That's how I felt for sure.
I can kind of relate to that. I started off as a school teacher, way back when I had hair. I was complaining to a friend of mine. We were at a concert, and I was complaining about my job, and he was like, why don't you just shut up about that? And he was an animator at a computer company here, and he said, there's a spot for an audio engineer. I said, well, I don't have a training for that. I didn't go to school for that. Yeah, but you've been playing in bands, and you know music enough that, I said, trust me, you're better than the guy that just left. So I'm like,
That's awesome.
what the heck? I'll send in the demo and met with everybody there. And the next thing I know, they're offering me a job. I'm like, I can't believe I get to work with sound all day.
I know, it feels like I feel spoiled. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of weird, things that just, if I didn't listen to my friend, I could have been on a very, very different path of what I've been doing.
Totally.
And I've changed paths, but we won't get into that because it's not about me, it's about you. So you guys started in September with the show,
Yes.
and you've expanded because you've added a couple more Tuesday performances because of demand, which is always awesome. When you think about all the shows you've done so far, does anything stand out that was either really funny to you, really touching, any kind of just memories that come off the top of your head?
I think this show's really fun because it gives us the opportunity to play with the audience a little bit. So a different audience will bring out different kind of performance. So for example, there's one point in the show, I'm going to steal another actor's story though. Should I tell?
That's okay.
Okay. There's one point in the show where they're supposed to fall, but as you can see, it's a flat stage. They're supposed to fall down a hill. So they do this kind of really acrobatic sort of tumble, slow-mo, and the audience gets like, we're falling down a hill right now. But it ends with a somersault at the end of the stage, but there was no one in the front row, so the actor who somersaults just somersaulted all the way and ended up sitting in one of the seats like that. And it was just so much fun for the audience because he was just right there with them, and I think that kind of thing is a hoot.
Yeah, I know the performance I saw, at least one of the actors was sitting on someone's lap at one
Yes.
point during the show.
Exactly.
And makes it that much more interactive and enjoyable, and also kind of wakes up those people in the front that maybe were like kind of half watching. It's like,
Totally.
oh, we're right here.
Which I think is what's, for me, why theater itself is such a special medium is because it is that storytelling, similar to what you get in a movie, except the audience is right there, and it is a different performance every night. You know, they're part of this world that we're making. So
Yeah, it's very much the same with, I think, anything that's live. That
Yes,
that energy
totally.
can be completely different from one show to the next show. I cover a lot of bands, so sometimes you can have a small crowd that's way into the band and the
Yeah.
energy's awesome, or you might have a huge sold out show and the audience is kind of lame. and,
Yeah.
and it really affects the performance and everything else
really
that
does.
happens. So I definitely know that. So we've talked a lot about that there's so many characters that you get to play in this show and kind of your method to preparing for that. Can you go through each character, like their name, and maybe give us a little sample of who they are?
Okay, I'll let them introduce themselves. How about that?
I'm Mrs. Hudson, and I'm the housekeeper for Sherlock Holmes.
Except I just did her accent totally wrong. But we got Mrs. Hudson. We've got another kind of main one is Mrs. Barrymore, who is she has a Swedish dialect. This was a very hard dialect to create. I feel like I'm doing that wrong too. I can only do it with the lines. Then there's Beryl, who's kind of the ingenue, the sweet, maiden in distress. Beryl's accent is very easy to do because every actor has to learn RP in acting school, I think. So that one's much easier to improvise with. Those are kind of my three main ones. And then there's like a lot of little sort of pop-up characters. Like I play a baby.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
How long on the comedy rehearsals do you guys do before you go to previews? Especially with this kind of show, that the timing has to be so on because there's only 5 of you.
Yeah. I think we had 3 weeks of rehearsal. Do you know? We had 3 weeks of rehearsal. Then we had 3 previews. We did have a few days. We had 4 days of tech, I think, as well. So it was definitely a compressed process.
Okay, awesome. And I guess the last thing I'd like to ask you, is there anything you'd like to say to people about the show, or anything about yourself, like you have something that's coming up, or a website or social media that you'd like to plug?
Oh, well, I'm actually going to be in another Taproot show in January, Arsenic and Old Lace, which is going to be a lot of fun, so people should come out for that. And then, my website is lizkeck.wixsite.com/actor. So if people want to check out all my other work, they can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
the time, and I'm looking forward to seeing the show again. Thanks for joining us, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, maybe you can kind of explain for those that are unfamiliar with the show what you're wearing right now.
This is a lovely cape/dress that we wear in the show to change costumes really fast on stage, because all of us play like upwards of 10, 14 characters in the show.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's
you-
awesome.
And I won't give too much away, but towards the end of the show, you have some of the funniest parts where you have to constantly be changing your characters within like seconds of each other.
Yeah, a conversation with myself.
Are you local to the Seattle area, or have you moved here from somewhere else? Or-
Yeah, I'm born and raised Seattle. I grew up in Maple Valley.
Okay.
And then I moved up to Seattle proper when I went to college. I went to Cornish College of the Arts, and then stayed up in the city.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how long have you been doing theater here locally then, would you say?
Well, my first show outside of high school was when I was 16. And so that was 12 years ago. So yeah, I've been acting professionally for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'll ask you the same thing that I had asked Liz earlier. What drew you to theater?
Well, this is a funny story. Me and my football friends actually auditioned for the freshman musical in high school as like a joke. We were like gonna make fun of like the drama geeks, and then like they didn't get cast, and they cast me as the lead, and I was like, well, I guess I have to do it now. And then I fell in love, and everyone in the show was just welcome me with like open arms, and it was like, this is my family. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So something that you really didn't expect to happen completely changed your world, really.
Oh yeah. From that moment on, I was like, this is my life now.
Have you had a chance to go back to your high school where you did drama at all, just to kind of talk to the students or the current teacher there, or anything about your professional work that you're doing now?
Yeah, I'll talk to my old drama teacher from time to time. Like, we'll just like meet up with like the high school musical awards that go around, and like I'll talk to them there. And I like to volunteer with the Fifth Ave doing the high school musical awards by like adjudicating and running the show when it's the actual ceremony and stuff like that. So.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So for people, even including myself, that don't know the process, and you've been in a lot of shows, it sounds like, what is that process like? How did you get involved with Baskerville?
So I know Taproot because this is the third show I've done with them. First show was Big Fish, and then it was Civil War Christmas. And so after Big Fish, they came to my audition at college, and then I got cast through that, and then I just had my face known here, and they brought me in, read some scenes, played around, and yeah, it was this audition process was like one of the funnest I've ever done. They're like, okay, now you're gonna do this, now do that, now do this. Great, we'll see you later.
Okay. One thing that I think I'm always curious about, especially for people that are doing other jobs in life, day jobs, and maybe they are creative or artistic people, and trying to make that jump to where they're making a living from it, a career from it. Some people kind of have a foot in both worlds because they can't quite make, bills are bills.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in that timeline?
So last year, I actually for 10 months out of the year, I was full-time acting, and it was awesome. It was really hard. And so I got like a side hustle job at a grocery store just down the street from here, Ken's Market, shop there. And that's great because they were like super flexible around my theater schedule, and they like understand it, and so I don't have to sacrifice my art just because I have to make a bill, like pay a bill.
That's nice that you found that puzzle piece that
Yeah.
kind of helps you do what you're passionate about. I have a chance to talk to a lot of bands, and especially the ones that are like up and coming, and they're in a 15-passenger van and they're driving 300 miles in between shows and they're hardly making any money. So they're worried about money all the time. Even when they go back off the road, it's like, what
Yeah.
are we gonna do if my roommates haven't been paying the bills and I've
Yeah.
been on the road and we don't have much money?
Mhm.
But they love it so much they'll sacrifice whatever it takes to do it. But so I'm always interested in that piece because I know there's people
Yeah.
that will be watching this is like, well, I want to do that too, but
Mhm.
and then real life kind of interferes in its way. But there's
Yeah.
ways to get past it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. When you think about the show, and it's been going since early part of September, and you guys have more performance coming up on Tuesdays now because of the demand.
Mm-hmm.
How did you prepare for all the different dialects and the different roles that you're playing in the production?
We have an awesome dialect coach, Ben Whipple, that helped us out and came to rehearsals like really early, and even before rehearsals he sent us like a package saying like, these are your characters and this is the dialect to prepare. And I haven't done much dialect work at all before this show. I mean, I've done like Southern, which was great for Henry, and then Standard British, but then there was like Devon and Cockney, and I think that's all I do, but they do Swedish and German and Scottish and just everything. But it was like really difficult, but he gave us packets with like the vowel substitutions, like you may say display, but the A sound is I in Cockney, so it's display, you know, and just like every little thing he had a packet for it. It was like, read this and do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And not to put you on the spot, but could you do a couple of your characters, or like say who they are, and then say something either from the show or just something in general in the accent?
Okay. So there is Lestrade comes on and says, "Well, knock me senseless. It's Mr. Sherlock Holmes. What the hell are you doing here?" And then there is Sir Henry that says, "Gentlemen, it's good to meet you." And so,
Awesome. Having flashbacks to the show and everything, how things just keep constantly changing and changing throughout the show, and you have to really be keeping up with it. And it just kind of, for me at least, it just sucks you into it, and it's so funny, but also so layered in what you guys are doing. So
yeah.
that's awesome. So I think I'd like to kind of wrap it up by saying, do you have anything that's coming up, or anything that you'd like to plug, a website, social media, anything that you'd like people out there to know about you?
I have auditions pending that I can't talk really pretty much about yet,
Fair
but
enough.
good vibes.
Okay. Thanks,
Yeah.
Eric, for doing the interview. I really appreciate it. And so you've been a part of Baskerville since September when the production started.
Mm-hmm.
And I was here on media night, on opening night, and I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop being involved in the show. And as I've talked to Isaiah here, who works here, that I really wanted to talk to some of the cast members because I was just blown away by the show and the performances and everything. And to the point that I'll be coming back with family members who've never really seen local theater, because I kept talking about the show so much after I saw it, which is hopefully great word of mouth, that kind of thing. So for those that haven't seen the show, what are your roles and parts within it?
So I play, I think either 13 or 14 parts. I think one of those parts is just a voiceover that they play, but I think 13 different costumes, and there are different dialects going with that. So yeah, it really varies. I play a doctor, a scientist, a woman, a young boy. I play an old man with a hunchback. Just a huge variety, a bunch of different dialects, probably at least 6 or 7 different ones. So it's a lot of fun to have that kind of variety in one play.
Okay, are there any, not to put you on the spot, but are there any particular roles or the dialects that you like that you can maybe kind of demonstrate to the audience?
Okay, one of my favorites is Barrymore, who's the servant at Baskerville Hall, and he speaks with RP, which is like standard British, and he's like,
"Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Baskerville."
It's a lot of fun I give him a lot of like physical and vocal characteristics to play with, so it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And I understand that in preparation that you guys are given like packets and like samples about the dialects from your dialect coach, and for you guys to get an understanding of like what you're going to need to prepare and do. When you think back about it, what was like maybe the one dialect that was maybe the toughest to do?
Oh man, let me think. There's a lot of technical stuff to all of them. Like dialects like RP or Cockney. You know, people hear all the time. I've heard it in 100 different shows and TV shows and movies. But sometimes dialing down on getting each syllable exactly correct was a challenge. One of the ones that was entirely new to me that I'd never done before and hadn't really heard that much is the Devon accent or West Country. So it's kind of like a rural English accent, and one or two of my smaller characters do that. Like when they first get off the train in Baskerville, and the coach driver speaks with that, and he says like,
Baskerville, are you sure you want to go there, young fella?
so it was kind of fun getting to play with a new one. That's another one that you can
Really put a lot of characteristic into. Give it a little something extra.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, are you a native of Seattle?
Yeah, I was born in Seattle. I lived here until I was 5, and then my family moved to Olalla, which is in Kitsap County, kind of between Port Orchard and Gig Harbor. And I lived there until I went to college in Texas at Abilene Christian University. And after that, I moved back to Seattle, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. I asked your castmates the same question. What drew you to theater originally?
I think when I was first getting into it in like junior high school, I was excited by the dialects, by the costumes, all that kind of stuff. Getting to, when I was a kid, when I was much younger, I liked, doing a lot of imaginative play and that kind of things. And so part of it was just wanting to get to do that and have fun with that. Also, my parents were both actors. In fact, they both worked at Taproot in the 80s. They did touring shows with Taproot, and so I had a bit of a connection to this theater specifically through my parents. And so yeah, my family was very supportive of the arts and creativity, and they really supported my choice to study theater. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's also that interesting circle that your parents had been here back in the 80s, and then now their son's here. I believe you have a daughter.
Yep. She's 5 years old.
Maybe your daughter might be here down the road.
She's always talking about wanting to put on different plays. Just today we were driving in the car, and she was saying, "Hey, can we talk about a play that I want to make? It's got these characters, and here's what happens." And she basically had us improvise some dialogue. She was like, "So this is what's happening," and then she said, "Okay, this is your line. You say this after I say that." And then we kind of improvise the rest of it. So already I definitely see that impulse in her. And she loves dressing up and putting up performances for us all the time.
Wow, it has begun.
Yeah, we joke like, oh no, she's going to become an actor. Oh, I was counting on her doing something where she'd make a lot of money and support us in her old age. But no, it's super fun watching her express that artistic passion as well.
That's awesome. So having a family, and you kind of touched on it about doing what you're passionate about, obviously doing the theater. Is it something that you're able to do full time exclusively, or you kind of have to juggle this and maybe like a little side thing? Or
it's definitely something for me right now that is balanced with a day job. I work in a warehouse. My wife is also an actor, and we sort of try and trade off who's in a play at any given time, especially with a kid. She does real estate, which is a flexible job that you can kind of work work around a theater schedule, which can be pretty demanding. Maybe at some point in the future, I might move towards trying to do it more full time. But right now, just balance it with what we have to do to pay the rent.
Sure, yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of the conundrum for a lot of, especially creative artistic people, that they're trying to do what they're passionate about, and then is that enough to live off of? So
Yeah.
sometimes it is, many times it's not, and sometimes you're in the middle of it, depending on where you're at in your career. So.
I remember when I was in college, my dad would tell me, like, you might think about like picking up a minor or maybe taking some business classes or something. And at the time, I always interpreted it like as a fallback plan. Like, if you decide not to be an actor, you need to have something else lined up. And I always thought, no, I'm not going to give up on it. And now with hindsight, I recognize it as like, oh no, from the beginning, you need to plan. If you're going to be an actor, probably almost any kind of artist, you need to plan on what career is going to best work alongside with the art that you're doing. Because some people are able to make a full living doing their art, and that's fantastic. And that's what we all strive to do. But it's not always how it works out, and you got to have maybe one or two or multiple different jobs. So
I know from doing the photography work and talking to some of the photographers whose work I've admired, I thought, oh, for sure, they're making a living from it. It's like, well, no, when it's slow or when things went digital, they're not paying what they used to pay. So I have a side job over at a factory. I have a side job here. And it's like, oh, it's really kind of a hard way to live. And but it's something I love. So I know I just do whatever I have to do to allow me to keep doing what I am passionate about. So it's one of the things that I'm trying to find out personally for myself, the same type of thing. Like, how can I do this and somehow live off of it, and not live large by any means, but just not be out on the street or buying Top Ramen for every day like back in college or something. So I'm always interested in what people have to say about that.
Yeah, it's tough because when you've got a day job and you're working on a show or something, it's a demanding schedule. You don't have a lot of extra time, and you're trying to make money. And luckily, theaters like Taproot and a lot of other places around town do pay an hourly wage. So you are working, you are making money, and sometimes you work on projects that maybe you just get a stipend or maybe you aren't paid, and you have to choose those selectively. Of like, if it's a project that is really exciting to you, something that's really you feel is important for you to work on, then you can do that. But it makes a big difference when you are able to have it be a job. And I remember a few years ago, I used to do Taproot's touring company that would the road company that goes to schools doing bullying prevention plays, and for a couple of years the bulk of my income was from acting, which is a really kind of special thing to be able to be paying my rent with acting for doing those shows and other shows. So yeah, sometimes you are able to have it be your main thing, and often you got to balance it with another gig.
Got it. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And kind of in closing, is there anything that you'd like to plug, anything you'd like to talk about, like social media-wise, website, show coming up, anything else out there you just want to let people know about?
I haven't got a whole lot else coming up after this. Like I was mentioning, my wife and I trade off. She's going to be in the next show here at Taproot. I'm going to try not to butcher the name. Christmas at Pemberley, more or less. It's a Jane Austen Christmas play, and it should be a lot of fun. So come see her in that.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll see. Not sure what my next project is, but sorry, somebody's calling me. I should turn my phone off. Oh, that's her. That's my wife.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to seeing the show again tonight.
All right.